Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you very, very much, as always, for listening, for watching, for following, for subscribing. I appreciate y'all very much. I'd like to invite you, that if you haven't done so already, to make sure you go on either Apple or Spotify, look up Talking Buffalo, and make sure that you like and follow us there as well. This is our Friday episode, and kind of had to throw a little bit of a change up here. Originally, I had Anthony Prohaska from Cover One was scheduled to be here, not only for the show, but also in studio with me. However, I got a note from Anthony early on Thursday morning that he is completely under weather, suffering from a virus. So sucks for him. Hopefully he feels better. Anthony is one of my favorites. I was very much looking forward to getting some of his perspective on a lot of these draft prospects, but no worries. Anthony will recover. He'll be fine, hopefully. And we'll have him again on pretty soon here, hopefully in studio. Anyway, so I'm kind of switching gears a little bit, and I'm going to go back to my Fan Friday show. This is something that I've done on a handful of Fridays here and there, where fans, watchers, listeners of the show send in their comments, their takes, their questions. And I'm going to read some of them off here on the air and then give you my response to them as well. Tell you what, too, going forward on this show, this is going to be something that it's not going to be every Friday, but it will be we'll say a semi-regular feature on the show. Basically, the Friday shows from here on out, what they're going to be are one of two things. Either one, I have a live show somewhere on a Thursday night, usually Imperial Pizza, but I'm going to start doing some shows at other places as well. When I do those, I'm going to have a guest on with me each week. We record those live on Thursday night. Video side is live. And then Friday morning, it drops in podcast version. So we'll do that when I have a live show. When we don't have a live show for that week, I will have a Fan Friday show. And again, this is an opportunity for you, people who are watching or listening to the show, to send in your takes, your comments. Some of them I get off our YouTube channel. Some I get in tweets at me. Some are emailed. By the way, Talking Buffalo Podcast at gmail.com. Those are always fun. I like to interact with people and feel like you're being involved with the narrative, the direction of the show. One quick pivot here, and then we're going to dive into these. And there's some good ones today, too. In terms of what I was just talking about, the Imperial Live show, I can announce now I have 3 shows coming up starting in 2 weeks. So obviously not this week, and then probably not next week, but Thursday night, April 4th, I got former Buffalo Bills cornerback Marlon Kerner. He's going to be with me live from Imperial Pizza. And then the following week, got Buffalo News Bills beat reporter Jay Skursky. I've done live shows with him before. He's going to be back with me at Imperial Pizza on Thursday, April 11th. And then on the 18th, I got Buffalo Sabres beat reporter from The Athletic, Matthew Fairburn. He's going to be joining me live as well. And Matt, too, by the way, of course, he covers the Sabres, but you all know he's a football guy, too. So we'll be like a week out from the draft. So I'll get his take on a lot of draft stuff as well, of course, as the Sabres. So looking forward to doing those. Like I said, we're going to be doing a lot, especially as this weather turns, if it ever does turn here in Buffalo and get nicer. We're going to do a lot more live shows on Thursday nights. I really love those. It's just it's a different dynamic sitting down with somebody face to face with people around, just the vibe, the atmosphere, and it's really cool. And especially at Imperial Pizza, great food as well. But anyway, those are coming up. As for today, like I said, we're doing Fan Friday. I got about 9 or 10 questions and takes from the fans. So let's just, without further ado, we'll jump in right now. Going to start with my man, actually. This is Nate Gary, of course, from WJR 550. I'll read what he said. He goes, so for the sake of conversation, the Bills lost both starting safeties, their starting center, their wide receiver 2, and running back too. I think by getting younger and more athletic, they're at worst the same at safety. I think maybe a slight uptick to better. I think Montgomery is probably a slight step down at center from Morse. Edwards, a slight step down from McGovern. Talk about David Edwards there. Samuel is better than Gabe, meaning Curtis Samuel better than Gabe Davis. You brought back Ty Johnson. I don't think the Bills really got worse this offseason. And of course, that is from Nate Gary here, Nate at Nate Gary Sports. In terms of what he said, firstly, and I agree with almost all of what he said, big change at safety, and Nate regards it as a slight uptick. I don't want to sound like a homer here, but I might be more inclined to give it a little bit more of an upgrade than that. And for those who don't know, the Bills have a new pair of safeties. Well, one of them, an incumbent last year, Taylor Rapp, who didn't start, he was re-signed. And 2 days ago, the Bills are actually on Wednesday, I should say, the Bills signed Kansas City Chiefs safety Mike Edwards to a 1-year deal. I think it was for like $2.8 million, with an opportunity to earn up to $4 million. Anyway, personally, I think it is a little bit more than just a slight uptick, because you got to look at it this way. You think of Micah Hyde, you think of Jordan Poyer, and instantly you think of the greatest safety tandem in the history of the entire franchise. I get all that. But past is past, and this is the present and looking potentially into the future. This is not 2024. This is, I should say, 2024 Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer versus 2024 Mike Edwards and Taylor Rapp. And quite frankly, neither player, Hyde nor Poyer, they're just not the same player, the same caliber of player that they were through all these years with the Buffalo Bills. In terms of Jordan Poyer, I'm not going to backtrack what I said. Ideally, I personally would have liked to have kept Jordan Poyer. I still think he had at least a little bit of juice left in the tank. Wasn't the same player as he was when he was an all-pro player in 2021, but he still did some good things for the Bills last year. He's lost some foot speed. It's undeniable, but the instincts are still there. The physicality was still there. The leadership was still there. He was going to get beat at times. And I think Jordan Poyer also benefited at least a little bit from almost being maybe a little bit more protected, playing that linebacker in that 6 DB package that the Bills started to run a lot more after Matt Milano went down. But anyway, Jordan Poyer stepped up in that Kansas City game, one of the few guys on defense to actually make a play that mattered. So I wasn't thrilled that he lost, and I'm okay with Taylor Rapp. I don't love Taylor Rapp, but I was very encouraged at the end of the season how he looked, especially that Miami game. Back-to-back plays, a great pass breakup, and then a dive and interception. Unfortunately, he got injured on that play and didn't play in the playoffs. But anyway, I'm fine with Taylor Rapp. Much younger. Give him a 3-year deal, a very team-friendly deal. You can get out of it as early as year 1, or you got him locked in for 3 years. I'm fine with that. But to me, the upgrade is Micah Hyde and then Mike Edwards. And look, nobody loves Micah Hyde more than I do. I promise you folks that. I mean, I quite literally dedicated an entire episode of Talking Buffalo to examining if Micah Hyde will someday be Buffalo Bills Wall of Fame worthy, which, by the way, you guys had some great takes for and against it. But anyway, my point was this. 2023 Micah Hyde was a shell of what he was 2021 and previous. And that's just what it is. I mean, you can go through all 17 games of the 2023 season and the playoffs. Name me maybe more than 1 to 2 legitimately, even remotely impactful plays that Micah Hyde played or made for the Bills last year. It just wasn't there. And there were times where I thought he was just a straight up liability, especially that Philly game. I mean, that was a very bad game for Micah Hyde. So anyway, and then the writing was on the wall. He knew right when the season ended, he knew that was the end of the road. I don't know if it's the end of the road for sure with him playing professional football. And if he wants to keep playing, I hope he finds a home. But he knew the writing was on the wall that his time with Buffalo was up. Just a shell of his former self as a football player. And also, I like Mike Edwards. I like him a lot. When it became obvious the Bills were going to sign a safety, he was second or maybe third on my list of realistic guys that I really wanted to see in Buffalo. Geno Stone was my top guy, and he went to Cincinnati. I think it might have been on day one of free agency as well. Well, Mike Edwards was right there. He was right there. I love Justin Simmons, but he's 31 years old, still out there, maybe for a reason because he wants a lot of money. I like Mike Edwards. Not a great athlete. Sound familiar? Micah Hyde was not a great athlete. Jordan Poyer, not a great athlete. They're good athletes. I mean, they can run, they can move, but they're not, their athletic abilities were nowhere near elite. They just had great instincts. Kind of Mike Edwards, in a way, is in that same mold. He makes plays. He finds the football. He's smart. He tracks the ball well. Physical. Not a great tackler. His tackling grades, I looked on PFF. They've been pretty poor, actually, for most of his career, which, by the way, he should fit right in with the Buffalo Bills with shitty tackling grades. But seriously, I really like Mike Edwards a lot. And let's not forget, man, when Hyde and Poyer came to the Bills in 2017, we didn't barely blink an eye, right? We didn't bat a lash. They were unheralded as hell. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I've said this before, just one thing I trust about Sean McDermott, one singular thing, is that he's going to do really good work with the safeties. He always does. He's done it as Bills head coach, and he's done it before he got to Buffalo. So I feel good about this at all. Or I should say I feel really good about this. So I think it's a little bit more than a slight uptick. I'm in the point where I just think it's a straight up upgrade for the Bills at safety this year versus last year. Agree a little bit about when they said with center a small step down. I don't love Connor McGovern moving to center. And I know he's played some. I know he, recruited to college to be a center. He's played like 100 snaps maybe in the NFL. He's bigger, that's for sure. He might be better equipped to handle those bigger interior guys than Mitch Morse was. And also Mitch Morse, 32 years old, some injury history. Best days probably behind him, where Connor McGovern is much younger and much cheaper. And let's not fool ourselves here. That played a big role in it as well. But I've seen it with Mitch Morse. We've seen it for years. We have not seen Connor McGovern succeed at center. So, of course, a little bit of concern there. What I do like is David Edwards getting slotted into guard, because I thought he was a starting caliber guard when the Bills signed him last year. I thought he played really, really well as that 6th offensive lineman last year. I kind of feel like Alec Anderson will get at least first crack. As things stand, he should get first crack at that 2023 David Edwards role. But yeah, I like Edwards at guard. Book is still out on Connor McGovern, but on paper, it certainly seems like a bit of a downgrade. I like Curtis Samuel better than Gabe Davis as well, just like Nate said. Really don't need to get into why. Gabe's had a couple of great games. He's got that big size, great blocker, good leader, but he just didn't have that explosion, that quickness, that get off the line, get open quick. And I think Curtis Samuel will do better for the Bills, at least during the regular season anyway. You can never forget about Gabe's 4-touchdown playoff game in Kansas City. But that aside, I think Curtis Samuel's an upgrade as well. Didn't mention defensive tackle, and the Bills haven't even literally have signed nobody to play defensive tackle behind Ed Oliver, DaQuan Jones. But I'm at the point where any draft pick and almost any body off the street is going to be an upgrade over what they had last year. I almost feel like defensive tackle depth is addition by subtraction. I don't keep wanting to beat a dead horse. If you watch the show every day, you already know where I'm going with this. I thought the defensive tackle depth behind the starters last year stunk. I thought Tim Settle stinks. He did in Buffalo. I hope he plays great with Houston. I really do. I truly do. Great guy. But he didn't do nothing in Buffalo. Jordan Phillips will make a play here and there, and then he would hurt the team just as many times as he would make a play. Poona Ford, non-factor. Linval Joseph, non-factor. So almost anybody, and they don't have anybody right now, so you can't really judge that position. They will, though. And I almost feel like it has to be an upgrade just because those guys just gave them nothing. Not mentioned, though, and this is where I do think the team's going to suffer a little bit, at least as things stand right now anyway. You got to replace Leonard Floyd, though. Nate didn't mention him. Leonard Floyd led the team 10.5 sacks, and you're counting on Vaughn Miller to kind of replicate what Leonard Floyd got you. That's concerning. And then the last point, too, the offseason is far from over. I mean, you still got the draft, of course, but the Bills could be active. In fact, they might be real active after June 1st with player signings. I mean, they signed Leonard Floyd on June 6th last year. So they're going to add some bodies. They're going to add some people. I think some teams around the league are going to cut a few guys, including maybe the Bills, after the draft. You know, you fill up on a couple of positions, and all of a sudden there's a veteran on your roster that you don't need anymore, and you make him a post June 1st cut, or you cut him right then and there. So there will be some decent, serviceable depth out there for sure on June 1st. So this team is far from complete. But anyway, good points by Nate. And keep this going here. At Colin B78 says, I don't care how deep this draft is at wide receiver. Pick 60 is a long ways from pick 28. There's going to be a wide receiver run at some point, and I'm worried that the Bills could end up with wide receiver 15 instead of wide receiver 5. They could sign defensive tackle depth and even draft some later on. All right. Again, fair point. 60 is a very long way from 15. Even with the depth of this wide receiver class, which by all accounts, we keep hearing about how great it is. I kind of feel like this. This is my current mindset with the Bills and the wide receiver position specifically. The top 3 are going to be gone. Let's not even talk about them. Brian Thomas Jr. is probably wide receiver 4, at least to most people right now. It would be surprising if he was there as well. So is A.D. Mitchell going to be available? If you want wide receiver, if Brandon B wants wide receiver, if you want wide receiver in the first round, I think what it comes down to is A.D. Mitchell going to be there at 28, or is he going to be there at 23 to maybe 26, and Brandon Beane likes him enough that he wants to move up for him? To me, at that point, if the first 4 are gone, I kind of feel like first round it's A.D. Mitchell or bust. And with the needs, the way things stand right now, I wouldn't bet that the Bills take a wide receiver right now. If I was a betting man, as boring as this sounds, I don't think the Bills are going to take a wide receiver. I could see them taking an edge guy. Darius Robinson, a guy that Joe Buscaglia wrote about in The Athletic this week, a defensive end who could also play inside, kind of in the mode of an Eric Armstead, who the Bills showed great interest in when he was released last week, right before they signed Curtis Samuel ultimately. That kind of guy, Chop Robinson from Penn State, another guy. But here's the point, and this is where I think the viewer is right. 60 is a long way away, because guys like Troy Franklin and Keon Coleman and Xavier Legette, Xavier Worthy, Roman Wilson, those are all guys who they're all going to be there. I feel like they're all going to be there at 28, barring a real surprise. But none of them might not be there at 60. So it's a good point. You know, I think A.D. Mitchell is that last first round guy that the Bills could be a really good bet to take. My sleeper guy is Xavier Legette, who I've been reading. You know, I follow a lot of draft people, at least this time of year anyway. The Xavier Legette guy is a guy who could end up creeping near the end of the first round. He's the perfect developmental guy. Like, he's not going to get drafted, even if it's in round 1. He's probably not going to be your week 1 on the boundary wide receiver who starts and plays 80% of the snaps or more. Probably going to be a guy that you ease in a little bit, but like long term, this guy could be a stud if you're looking to potentially, replace Stephon Diggs after this year. And you don't necessarily want to use the pick at 28. Maybe you move up in the second round to get a receiver. Because that's what I'm saying I can see the Bills do right now. I can see the Bills going edge guy in the first round, and then Brandon Beane, knowing he's not going to get any of those guys I just mentioned, at pick 60. Maybe he moves up and then they get them from there. Anyway, let's move on here. One more, then we'll take a quick break. Khalil Shakir was a pretty nice story for sure last season, especially late. Not going to take that away from him, but I don't buy that he's emerged enough that it would change me from wanting to get at least one wide receiver early in a draft, if not 2 at all. I think in a perfect world, Shakir is a perfect number 4 wide receiver that takes snaps from Samuel inside or a boundary guy outside, but I can't bank on him becoming a 700 to 800 yard trusty guy right now. And that comes from Corn Seeds 09. All right, on Khalil Shakir, look, in a way I agree, but I do think he's got breakout potential. And by the way, you said 700, 800 yards, you don't see it. I mean, he had 611 yards last year with the Bills. So I don't really think 800 yards is a huge leap. Probably depends on what his role ultimately ends up being with the Bills. How many snaps he sees. He had 200-yard games receiving last year in their final 7 games. By the way, it's 2 more than Stephon Diggs has had over that same stretch. In fact, Stephon Diggs didn't have 100 yards over his last 13 games. But anyway, I thought Khalil Shakir emerged late. He became a trustworthy target for Josh Allen back in the 2 playoff games. He had 10 catches on 12 targets, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 in each playoff game. So yeah, man, surely, ideally he's a 4. Ideally, in a perfect world, if the Bills can execute what a lot of you want to see, and they can go get an 8A Mitchell, or maybe even if Brian Thomas, if they were to trade up, or if he just somehow falls to the Bills, you can go get him with Stephon this year and Samuel and Shakir and Mac Hollins. But sure, in that ideal world, he could be a 4. We'll see how it plays out. I don't know. That's all I can say. Because they could be 50-50. I could just I'll rack my brain every day. Are the Bills going to go receiver early enough that is going to be a big factor as a rookie? I don't know. What I say today, I might change my mind tomorrow. But anyway, my whole point was this. I think that I like Khalil Shakir more than the guy who left that comment. Let's just leave it at that. Anyway, I'm going to take a real quick break, come back, and got some more questions for you. All right, we are back here going over on Fan Friday some questions, some takes from the fans of the show. Let's bounce right back in. With getting Samuel, this is from @RockyTopBill. He says, with getting Samuel, I feel like first-round defensive tackle is almost a lock, especially if we sign a starter at free safety in the next few days. All right, real quick here. This question was, or I should say, got that early in the week. The Bills signed Mike Edwards. So there goes, the second half of that. He thinks defensive tackle is a lock because the Bills signed Curtis Samuel. I don't think defensive tackle in the first round is anything remotely close to a lock. Even though, again, I will argue over and over and over again, as things stand right now, I think defensive tackle depth behind 2 starters, one of them 32 years old, who's been hurt the last couple of years. I think that is arguably the biggest need on the team. But I don't know that the value of this position is going to match what the need is or where the Bills pick. Johnny Newton and Byron Murphy, if they were to be available for the Buffalo Bills, I think it would be a lock. I think either of those guys would be gone and the Bills would go defensive tackle. But if they're both gone, and it certainly seems like both will be, then I don't buy the Bills going defensive tackle in the first round. Brandon Fisk is a guy, and Daniel Jeremiah said that Bills fans should watch for him. He wrote about that in his mock. Kid from FSU, explosive player, strong dude. He's on the board. He's a possibility. Chris Jenkins, another guy that Daniel Jeremiah mentioned specifically. Possible. And when do they go defensive tackle in the first round and take either Fisk or Jenkins? Not likely. Very likely to be not well received from fans. I can promise you that if they take one of those guys who would be DT3 or DT4, maybe even coming off the board in the first round. So I don't know how I feel about that. I think it's more likely that the Bills could go with a day 2 guy for sure. Michael Hall Jr. from Ohio State. And I know him too well because I'm a Notre Dame guy, and I just watched him decimate Notre Dame in a game. They might have even been 2 years ago. Notre Dame just could not block him. But anyway, he's a guy. Dwayne Carter from Duke's a guy. Leonard Taylor III from Miami. He's a guy. McKinney Jackson, I think he's from Texas A&M. He's another guy that I can see the Bills using maybe a day 2 pick on. Again, going back to what I said earlier, I think in a perfect world for the Bills, they got everything they wanted to fall the way they would hope it would fall. You get an edge rusher in the first, you get a wide receiver in the second, you come back with a defensive tackle in the third, you get another defensive tackle veteran body out there through free agency, which as of this recording, they haven't done. And I think that would be an idea, first couple rounds of the draft. Anyway, all right, let's keep going here. From Steve, just Steve. At the end of the day, it's always about having a great quarterback, don't you think? The Chiefs are back-to-back Super Bowl champions after trading Tyreek Hill, and they've averaged over 25 points per game during their run and did it without a 1,000-yard receiver. Sure, their defense is good and seems to step up with big plays and big moments, but more than anything else, it's the great quarterback. And again, that's from Steve. All right, Steve, look, I mean, you are right. Ultimately, it's about being the great quarterback. To me, though, a great quarterback will get you wins. A great quarterback will keep you in contention for a division or maybe even for a championship each year, even if your team around him isn't necessarily great. But at the end of the day, and the Bills know this as well as anybody right now in the NFL, you got to have more. You got to have more. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Josh Allen's the best quarterback in the NFL. Can't say that. Not when you got Pat Mahomes and what he's done, what his track record is. So I can't sit there and make that argument. But I can make that argument that at worst, Josh Allen is a top 5 quarterback. And in my mind, he's a top 3 quarterback. And yet the Bills have only played in one AFC conference championship game during this entire Josh Allen run. So it's about more. And he's played great, by the way. 2 of the 3 playoff losses, their last 3 playoff losses, one of them, the Cincy game, he stunk. It was awful. Terrible. Last year, this past one against Kansas City, I thought he played really good. Certainly good enough to win. 2021, epic. Maybe the greatest quarterbacking, at least third and fourth quarter, especially fourth quarter, in the history of the playoffs from a losing quarterback. So that's where I think your argument loses a little bit of its bite, because it's been the defense, it's been other guys around him, coaches too, that have collapsed. The Bills' defense has just straight up collapsed in their last 3 playoff losses. And star players don't play like stars. I've said it a million times. I'll say it again. The Chiefs beat the Bills in January, not because Pat Mahomes greatly outplayed Josh Allen. He didn't. But what happened is Travis Kelce and Chris Jones severely outplayed Stephon Diggs and Ed Oliver. And Ed Oliver and Stephon, not counting Josh, are 2, maybe arguably the 2 biggest stars on the Buffalo Bills. But they didn't play like it, not in the playoffs. So stars playing like stars matters. Defense not collapsing in the playoffs matter. Coaching matters. Coaching cost the Bills a trip to the Super Bowl probably in 2021. So I don't really buy that it's all about the quarterback at the end of the day. It certainly matters, but it's not all about him. All right, let's keep this going here. Von Miller being back to 100% is massive. At Josh Allen is the next Elway. By the way, I love that name. Josh Allen is the next Elway. He might be. He looks the part. He's more athletic. John Elway, he did get to Super Bowls, but he got his ass blown out in all of them. Josh ain't there yet. But then ultimately, John won the big one twice. So hopefully your name is a really good omen. But anyway, about Von Miller being 100% being massive, absolutely. I'll say this too. Vaughn didn't do shit last year. Vaughn was pretty much a waste. Vaughn probably didn't even deserve a roster spot near the end of the season, or at least on game day, I should say, an active game day spot. But I was, and I've said this, a little bit encouraged by how he looked against the Chiefs in the playoffs. I thought Von Miller was their best defensive lineman in that game. So I'm a little bit optimistic based on that. Being healthy, he looked like he had some bend, some urgency at the end there in the playoffs, especially Kansas City. And now he's got several months to get himself even more in shape and 100%. I actually feel at least relatively pretty good about Von Miller right now. I think a lot of people are sleeping on the fact that Von Miller can still be a good player. He ain't going to be, TJ Watt. He ain't going to be Bosa, but he's a guy who can get you 9 of 14 sacks somewhere in that window if he can stay healthy. I think ideally the Bills are hoping for what they got out of Leonard Floyd last year, 10.5 sacks. They're hoping for that from Vaughn. So sure, that's massive. And you know what else is massive? I got to give credit again to Joe B over at The Athletic. I was reading something he wrote, and Von Miller was in his article, and he talked about a really good asset of Von Miller is his ability to help bring along a rookie. Let's say the Bills, and they're going to draft a rookie edge rusher for sure. Maybe as high as the first, maybe a mid-round pick, maybe a combination of both or a late-round pick. But one thing Von Miller is going to do really well is he's going to help bring that guy along. Like Von Miller works really well with young guys, and a rookie getting, even if Vaughn's done after this year, a rookie getting a full year of learning from Vaughn, working with him, could end up being one of Von Miller's one of his very best assets here with the Buffalo Bills. So yeah, for sure, that's something worth noting. Couple more here. At Van716Boost1 says players can be replaced players can be replaced and on paper look fine, and maybe in some cases even better. But I think all the leadership that the Bills have lost in just one season is going to come back to bite them. Between Poyer and Morse, I would have been sure to hold on to at least one of them for that reason alone in 2024. I hope I'm wrong. And again, that is by Van716Boost1. It's such a tough thing, man. Look, losing Morse and Poyer and Hyde and Tre White, throw him out there too, from a veteran leadership in the locker room, I'm sure that hurts them. I'm not going to deny that. I'd even go as far to say is at one point during the season when it was just completely getting away from them and they lose in Philly, a game they should have won, and they're 6-6. You can make a fair argument that if it's not for that leadership, which I'm sure leaders like Poyer and Morse and Hyde and some of these guys, if it's not for their leadership, maybe that season sinks and it gets completely away from them. Maybe they don't go on that run. Maybe they don't end up winning the AFC East for a fourth consecutive time. Were it not for, forget about the on-field stuff, what the guys do and make plays. It's not like they were terrible either. It's not like Micah Hyde sucked or Poyer sucked or Mitch Morse wasn't good. Quite the opposite. But that leadership, maybe it helped. I'm sure it did help keep the glue together a little bit here when they were 6-6 and the season was just falling away. But that's just the way it goes, man, in sports, all teams, all leagues. Guys got to step up. Teron Johnson and Deion Dawkins, Rasul Douglas, Stephon Diggs, etc. This guy's got to step up. They got to be that voice in the locker room now, if they weren't already. So leadership always turns over with teams. And I didn't even mention Josh, of course. You do it. Done it before. You probably could have said the same thing, even though they were drought era teams. But when the Bills started losing guys like Kyle Williams and like Lorenzo Alexander, Fred Jackson, guys that were leaders, you have new leaders step up. Just as simple as that. But yeah, not going to say that leadership won't be missed. You can make a fair case that leadership might be missed more than the actual on-field production of some of those guys that they lost. All right, here. Last Bills one. Easily could see the Bills missing the playoffs. Buffalo barely made it in this year, and a healthy Bengals team and Colts team plus an improved Dolphins make the Bills a bit desperate. And that is from Long Live the Chill. Well, first of all, thank you for your comment, your opinion. Appreciate all of them, whether I or we agree on them or not. Look, in theory, the Bills can miss the playoffs. Sure. Could happen. And the AFC feels like it's going to be stacked again. It's felt like that now for the last few years. And there's good teams, I think, that didn't even make the playoffs last year. Like Jacksonville's definitely, one of them. They completely collapsed down the stretch. I think the Raiders flirted with getting into contention. The Jets snake bitten injuries, especially at the quarterback position, 4 snaps into their season. So sure, hypothetically, in theory, the Bills can miss the playoffs, but I don't know. Some of what you said specifically here, Chill, is just little little befuddling to me. First of all, I don't agree about Miami for starters. Um, and you're saying they're an improved team. I don't know that an improved team. They lost Christian Wilkins. They lost a lot of good guys on defense, and they signed some guys on defense too. They also lost a great guard, Hunt, who went to Carolina, and they're siding guys that are making efforts. But I'm not sure that what they've signed is better than what they lost. Plus, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't even know that they have a first round pick this year. Maybe they do. Regardless, I don't think Miami, at least as things stand, that very first question here with the Bills, Nate Gary examines, are they better on paper right now than they were last year, or worse on paper than last year? Kind of, it's debatable, right? You could say yes or no. I think more national people would say the Bills right now are worse on paper, where people who are more in tune with the Bills, local fans, content creators, media, might say the Bills are just as good, maybe even a little bit better on paper. Miami? Man, I don't know, dude. I don't think they're better on paper right now. I think they're worse on paper. Anyway, the Jets, now, if you would have said the Jets, that could be a dangerous team. I mean, a lot of ifs. Can Aaron Rodgers stay healthy? Of course. Can Mike Williams stay healthy? Tyron Brown, their new tackle, can he stay healthy? So many what ifs. But if those guys do stay healthy, and they got the 10th pick of the draft, and I got news for you, man, they are going to get a playmaker. I'm telling you now. Brock Bowers just has the Jets running all over him. All over him. Maybe even Brian Thomas Jr. could be a top 10 pick. But they're going to get a weapon. And that defense is good. And they always play the Bills tough. So I think the Jets are more dangerous. You say the Bills almost didn't make the playoffs last year. I mean, maybe at 6-6, sure. They were almost buried. If you would have wrote that in week 12, I'd be like, yeah, you're right. But the Bills almost had a playoff spot locked up 2 weeks left. The Bills won their division. The Bills were a second seed, so I'm not really sure how close they came to missing the playoffs. Also, kind of weird that you mentioned the Indianapolis Colts specifically as well. Not sure why. Like I said, I would have mentioned the Jaguars as a team that could be a lot better. Or the Browns, who got into the playoffs last year. I could see them being a team that might be a lot better. I don't know, though, man. Bills could miss the playoffs. I'm not sure, how you said it. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, all right, 2 more here. Is Don Granado, switching to the Sabres here, this is from Matt Larry Jacobs too. Is Don Granado keeping his job? Should Don Granado keep his job? I don't know what's worse, going through years of knowing by New Year's that there's no chance this team is making the playoffs, or having late season runs to give us hope before the rug is pulled out. Something has to give. Again, this is from at Larry Jacobs too. Thanks, Larry. Should he get fired? Will he get fired? To me, those are 2 separate questions with 2 separate answers. Should he get fired? In my opinion, yes. Will he? No. Quickly here. It's frustrating, especially this year. This was the year to make the leap. They came within 2 points last year, making the playoffs, and they went back and forth for months this year to start the season. No momentum from last year, and then they face planted over a stretch here that kind of got them in a hole that they just have not been able to climb out of. Last year was the goaltending. This year has been near Vezina trophy caliber goaltending. I mean, UPL's been freaking amazing. No matter though, because now they can't score, not with any consistency. Too many players have regressed. They play lousy at home. They had literally 0 3-game winning streaks for well over their first 50 games. Just absolutely mediocre results. And in some games, especially the home ones, they just came out sleepwalking. How many times did this team fall into a 2-goal or more deficit in their own building in the first 15 to 20 minutes of a game? It's just ridiculous. And I know a lot of people out there like to blame the players. My man Mike Harrington at the Buffalo News, always blaming the players. He's not wrong about that. Players certainly deserve a lot of blame. I get it. But you can't replace 15 players. And the NHL's always firing coaches, by the way. So, yeah, I think there should be a change. That said, ain't going to be one. Not going to be a change. I'd be stunned right now if there's a change. Terry Bagula ain't paying some dude, an extension that ain't even kicked in yet. He's not going to pay someone else to coach, or he's not going to pay Don Granato to not coach, I should say. Guy's got an extension. Hasn't even started yet. And I think, they did enough late in the season here, too, that I think it buys him another year, at least start to another year anyway. Now maybe, if Rob Brindamore's available, maybe a long shot. Lindy Ruff, nice vibe, sounds great. I just don't think that's happening. But anyway, I'd be shocked if Don Granato's not back on next year. All right, final question here. A little bit of fun here. Who is leaving WrestleMania Night 2 as champion? And do you have any bold predictions for WrestleMania 40? This is from @StrongStyle AJ1. Man, I could talk wrestling all goddamn night, man. I really could. Cody's got to leave, right? Cody's got to finish the story. He's got to leave WrestleMania as champion. If Cody Rhodes now doesn't walk out of WrestleMania Night 2 as champion for a second straight year, it's just going to be really hard to take him serious. I think the whole finish the story thing becomes comedy. Kind of sort of is already, in fact. Hear people say all the time, go finish the story. You got to finish the story. My friend comes out drinking, sends me a text. Still out. Got to finish the story. Anyway, yeah, look, man, Cody's the face of WWE right now. He's the one doing all the events, doing all the shit for the kids. It's got to be champ, right? It's got to be. Got to be. Here's what I love, too, about this main event as things stand right now. Often when you have a main event where you kind of feel like you know who's going to win, although to be fair, last year I probably around the same time would have said the same thing. Cody versus Roman. Cody won the Rumble. Cody's going to win the belt. It feels predictable, but how's it going to end? That's the real mystery. I would have said that a year ago, and Cody lost. A year later, I'm saying the same thing, except this time I'm ready to double down. I think Cody's going to win, but regardless, what I love about this scenario in this main event is even if you know what's going to happen, you don't know how. Is The Rock going to turn on Roman Reigns in a babyface kind of way? Has he been like a secret agent, double spy right now? And when the moment comes and the bloodline's attacking, he's going to turn face and he's going to beat the shit out of Solo and Jimmy Uso and then ultimately Roman Reigns. Is he going to do that in a face way? Is he going to do it in a heel way? Where Jey Uso and Sami Zayn or other guys come out to kind of even out the odds, and it's Roman laying down and it's Cody Rhodes laying down. They're both starting to get up and Rock's got a chair. Only he hits Roman Reigns with it. He does it kind of and then he has that smirk, like in a heel on the head of the table, smirk, kind of heelish type of way. So does The Rock turn in a good way or in a bad way? I think one of those two things are going to happen. Or that third option is The Rock helping Roman Reigns, and then someone we don't think is going to be there comes and helps Cody Rhodes. Hashtag Stone Cold Steve Austin. That'd be wild, wouldn't it? Goddamn. So anyway, I know those things could happen. So the mystery of how they get to the story ending at WrestleMania is just as fascinating as the story, Cody winning it himself. Plus, look, man, Roman Reigns don't need that goddamn title. All right? He's had it forever. In my mind, my warped mind, I'd like to see Cody Rhodes win 9 straight Royal Rumbles, then go to WrestleMania and lose 9 straight years and never finish the story. And I'd have Roman Reigns be the champ for 15 years in a row if I were booking. If I was the fantasy booker, Roman Reigns would be 75 years old and he'd still come out to the Bloodline music and he'd still be champion. I know that's not going to happen, though. But here's the thing. Roman don't need that title. Dude, he's an attraction now. Don't need that title. He can go away for a couple months, come back once in a while like Brock Lesnar's done so many times, and he'd be fine. He don't need that belt. Cody needs that belt. You want to take Cody serious as one of the best wrestlers in the world, as the true face of WWE, he's got to have that belt with him. He needs that belt more than Roman Reigns does at that point. You said bold predictions. I don't really know how bold these are. I got two for you, though. I could see Damian Priest cashing in and taking the belt from Seth Rollins. Maybe Seth beats Drew, but he's hurt, and Drew continues to work him over. The Rock comes out and fucks up Seth even more, and then Damian Priest comes out, cashes in. I can see that being a shocker. Then the other one, which, to be honest with you, I really wouldn't be a big fan of, but I can see Sami Zayn being the one to finally beat Gunther at WrestleMania, being the one to end the streak and take his Intercontinental title. I wouldn't do it. If it were me, I would have Gunther be champ all the way up until maybe say SummerSlam when he wrestles Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship or whoever a champion. But I would not have Gunther lose. And if it were to end, I would not have it end by Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn ain't that big of an underdog. Dude was freaking literally main event at WrestleMania last year, a year ago. So stop with the Cinderella story with Sami Zayn. Anyway, that was fun. All right, it's going to do it for this episode. Again, thank you very much for watching, for listening. By the way, I kind of got a new setup. If you happen to be watching this on the video side, you kind of see my eyes wandering a little bit, trying to go between screens. I kind of got a whole new dynamic here in my little podcast studio. I'll get used to it, though. I'll get it right. But anyway, one more time, I want to invite you, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe on the YouTube channel. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps us grow the show with the algorithm. And then also on the audio side, Spotify or Apple, make sure you follow or like. And some of you are wondering, well, why would you want me to do both? Because there's going to be a benefit to each of them that you won't get with the other. YouTube is going to be the place where we put out some exclusive videos, which I haven't started doing, but I'm going to be doing soon. I'm going to be having some mini shows, some segments, some clips, some stuff like that you will only get if you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Then, in terms of the audio, that's the only place you're guaranteed to listen to every episode in its entirety. So once in a while, when I'm on a location somewhere and I got to record a podcast, I might have the ability to be able to also do a video. So in those cases, there won't be a YouTube video with the full episode, but every episode is up on the audio side. So that's your reason. Again, thank you very much. I will be back. Have a great weekend. New shows. Joe from Queens will be on Monday's show, and we got some really cool shit to talk about. So talk to you guys then. Thank you very much.